a retired private sector paramedic. I worked in Oakland as a paramedic for 27 years. And back in the 80s, I started to really ramp up my interest in physics. In 1998, after I retired, I really began a focus on Cern and the physics comprised there. And about 4 years ago, I narrowed my focus down to some very specific areas with the Large Hadron Collider at Cern in researching for the first of my 3 books.
I love that. Okay. And so this has been a remarkable work. You have spoken all over about this, all over the nation. And if you were going to describe it to somebody like me without a science background and somebody that just generally does not know much about CERN, how would you describe this to somebody?
Well, it's the largest, most powerful, and most expensive machine ever created by man in recorded history.
Jeez.
Wow.
Yeah. Who knew? And what does it do?
Well, in parlance of us lay people, they're smashing rocks together at near the speed of light.
Okay.
Rocks?
So why do they want to do this, and what is the desired outcome of this?
Well, their advertised public relations press release will tell you that they are looking to open up portals or gateways to other dimensions, in addition to they're recreating the physics that occurred at the theoretical beginning of the Big Bang, and they are searching for those elemental particles and energies that existed moments after the explosion of the Big Bang. That's what they put out for public consumption.
And what's your take?
Yes, they are trying to open a portal. However, there is an occult agenda behind all of this science, and this is the occult agenda that has existed since the time of the Egyptians, the Sumerians, and the Babylonians, and carried forward through the secret societies all the way to the present day.
Wow. Wow. All right. So tell us what they've been ramping up to this, and have they been trying this? Have there been attempts to this thus far, or is tomorrow sort of the big event where they're sort of unveiling this, or have they been doing this and we just haven't heard about it?
Well, there's a lot that's been kept from the public, and yes, they've been doing numerous collisions since about 2008. Tomorrow, I euphemistically say something may happen, only because there's a coalescence of events that have been coming together in the mainstream and alternative news media about September 23rd. But no, according to their own published schedule at CERN, there's nothing special happening tomorrow with the machine. So I sort of tongue-in-cheek say, well, maybe something's going to happen with the LHC on the 23rd, but really the big action is taking place October through December to the day before Christmas. That's when the big energies will be produced by the LHC.
Ooh. Okay. And what are they really trying to accomplish? What is a portal? I guess for somebody like me, I think of a sci-fi film, and I think, well, how in the world do you do that? That's all sci-fi, and that's not based in reality. What does a portal look like? What would it do, in your estimation?
Well, if you're going to breach our dimension into another dimension, it requires tremendous amounts of energy, and they are using, and I'm breaking this way down, but they're using a substance called strangelets. It's the most explosive material in the known universe, that they are creating these strangelets. They're producing them within this machine when they are colliding particles together at near the speed of light. They are producing large amounts of energy, but they're also producing strangelets, which is a quark gluon condensate. This is something that can actually break the nuclear bonds at the quantum level. Picture atoms or even smaller items such as quarks and gluons and protons and electrons being held together by a strong nuclear force. That force has to be broken or separated. We're not talking about splitting atoms like you would imagine with a nuclear device, a fission bomb or fusion explosion, as in the case of hydrogen, but you're talking about breaking the bonds or the glue that holds the elemental particles together. And by breaking those bonds, you can actually create a distortion in the fabric of space and pierce that fabric and open a gateway to another dimension.
Wow. If you're just joining us, we're talking to Anthony Patch about Cern. This is definitely in his wheelhouse. He's been studying this, and for a long time he's written books. Dave has a question.
Anthony, we know that, protons are held together by this, what they call this force that holds them together. And it's splitting those releases that force and causes an atomic explosion. Are you saying that within the proton itself, there's another force, a deeper force, that's once they split that's also released?
Yes, a proton is comprised of quarks, and quarks have different dimensions, shapes, colors, and rates of spin. And so these are smaller particles than a proton itself.
And once those are released, then there's an explosive force or energy?
There is. And because of that energy that is released, they can use that as a weapon if they so choose, or they can use it experimentally and focus and direct it to a very small location within one of the detectors, in particular the ALICE detector at the Large Hadron Collider, and break the bond and open up this dimensional portal.
Who is the money backer on this, for the most part?
Well, there are well over 100 countries that are involved in funding CERN. It has virtually an unlimited budget. This is such a high priority to those in power that there are no restraints or constraints on the funding of the machine itself. And I believe that has contributed significantly to the demise of many of the countries of the world, their economies.
How so?
Well, it's a drain. To use in the world of physics, a black hole. It's a black hole for money. It just sucks up the funding from virtually every country, including our own.
Wow.
Speaking of that, Stephen Hawking said that this machine can create a black hole. Is that possible?
Well, he has said that in the past, but more recently he has stepped away from that and said that the issue is when you open up an interdimensional portal, when you break the nuclear bond, you create a vacuum. And he is concerned that once you open up that tiny, tiny space, that vacuum, instantaneously at the speed of light, it will expand and envelop the entire universe, not just our planet. And without our being aware of it, it will instantaneously suck up the entire universe. It'll invert the universe, is his concern. Black holes are theoretical. They've never been proven, never been reproduced or measured experimentally in the laboratory. They cannot be reproduced in the laboratory. Therefore, in the world of science, they do not exist except on the blackboard in the form of equations.
If you're just joining us on the Fox News channel, The Kate Daly Show, this is Anthony Patch, and we're talking about CERN. It's taken quite a long time to get to this point. Do you think, obviously we've been pouring a lot of money into this, the U.S. and all these different countries. If they don't see significant things happen, will they still continue to pour even more money into this thing to get this desired result at some point? Or will they start retracting if they don't get this desired result soon?
Well, they have plans on the board for 2017 all the way through 2030 for upgrading the machine, specifically the superconducting magnets that they are using. And they will, as they did in 2012, they shut down and changed over to what are known as titanium niobium superconducting magnets. They have another evolution of those magnets ready to be installed following the shutdown just before Christmas of this year. So they have long-term plans to get up to what is known as 100 tera electron volts, or TeVs, 100. Right now they're operating at 13 tera electron volts, and between October and December they will be operating at a little over 14 tera electron volts. So most definitely, if they don't open the portal this year, they will move right ahead with their agenda.
What are the other cases, scenarios that would happen as they, I'm going to say, screw with this, mess with this, I call it new science or whatever they're trying to do with this. What would we see or notice all the way over here in the United States? Or what could we see? What are some of the problems that will arise?
Well, we've all noted the marked increase in earthquakes and volcanic activity in the planet, and the changes to weather, changes to the magnetosphere, the shield surrounding the planet. We're seeing more southerly located aurora borealis, which are magnetic effects upon the shields around the planet. We're already seeing changes and distortions to the planet and the atmosphere and our weather that have a direct correlation to, in particular, the superconducting magnets at the Large Hadron Collider, as well as the magnetic lines of force that are generated by the acceleration of particles within the main ring. And those particles generating those lines of magnetic force are having effects on the planet in the form of gravimetric waves, gravity waves that are propagating through the crust and through the mantle of the planet. And for example, we had the recent earthquake in Chile at 8.3. There have been direct, in terms of timing, correlations to activities at Cern with large significant earthquakes, as well as the ramping up of the frequency and magnitude of them.
Ooh, that's interesting. That is interesting, because you could really use this as a weapon.
Is this harnessable? The products of this, these.
Can they control it?
Yes. This, you said it could be weaponized, and in order to do that, you have to be able to direct it, control it, harness it. Is that possible?
Well, when I mentioned weaponized, I was speaking directly to the particles known as strangelets. Those can be weaponized, but they also have the characteristic that is similar, or as I call them, the cousin to the black hole. Strangelets are so heavy and dense that they actually penetrate the Earth down to its core. And once they reach the core, they have the intrinsic nature of attracting other matter to them, converting them to the quark gluon condensate, converting ordinary matter into strangelets. And theoretically, that is how a neutron star is born. And that is one of the dangers of this machine, that they could spontaneously convert this planet into a neutron star.
Whoa. As you're sitting up at night thinking about this, and as you've delved into this so heavily, what are you thinking about as far as all the ramifications, all the things we might experience from this, from earthquakes to what? What else could we see over here that we could attribute to CERN?
Well, the changes in weather have to do with, and we observe that, have to do with the changes in our atmosphere due to the magnetic lines of force that I mentioned. There are things called telluric, T-E-L-U-R-I-C, telluric waves that propagate from the machine, project from the machine into our atmosphere. And these are causing disturbances, much like some people may have heard of the machine, the ionospheric heater known as HAARP. And HAARP is a weather modification device. Many people have heard of that. The LHC on a grand scale causes HAARP in comparison to pale in its effects. So we are seeing these increases in distortions to the weather patterns, but we're also seeing increases in magnetic energy that is reshaping the shields and opening the shields, the magnetic lines of force around the planet, the magnetosphere and magnetopause, allowing more X-rays and gamma rays to penetrate to the Earth. And these have effects upon not only the weather, but also cause the increase in earthquakes, because we're absorbing more energy into the core of the planet, including more protons from the sun in the core, heating the core and expanding the planet like a balloon.
Wow. I'm talking with Anthony Patch, when you started seeing all the transitions that we're making here in the United States, like moving things into NORAD, into the mountain in NORAD, and also moving the Fed out of New York, and the constant press possibility that there could be a major something happening on the East Coast or the coastlines, are you directly saying, are you thinking in your mind that would be attributed to this or something different?
No, I think that the movement underground is more akin to what they believe is the incoming planet X, or Nibiru. In the Bible, it's spoken of as wormwood.